The Archon, Viceroy Orionut, appears before the village of Half Rannoc. It is a dripping mechanical head with robotic claws and arms coming out of it. It speaks and says, "A vault has appeared. Assemble yourselves." Hello, and welcome back to Sphere Hoppers. I am your host and storyteller, Royce Rosewood. We are continuing the adventures of our ragtag crew of sphere hopping adventurers and the village of Half Rannoc, which has been transported to the patchwork world of the Crucible, and changes have been occurring. For the past couple sessions, we've been using the Quiet Year to simulate the events of this village, and we could play through the whole year, but I feel like we sort of had gotten to a place where I was satisfied with the environs. I feel like I knew what was going on. I feel like I knew the relationships to the three factions nearby, and it just felt like we were in a natural place to transition into a different mode of gameplay. Additionally, we had established that the followers of the Devourer had become sort of the de facto leaders here, but two of those leaders, Alalix and Pointage, are no longer with us. The only originals that are still here are Zavina, the duck pilot, and Thorada, the demon. And we had established in the last episode that these two were leading the charge to get out of the Crucible. So it makes sense to me that if these are the leaders that people are looking to and they want to get out, then there's been a shift in energy away from Kevda, who has been trying to rebuild the village and stabilize life here on the Crucible, and then this faction who is trying to get out. Additionally, as I said in the opening, I've decided that the Archon, having taken an interest in the village, having seen what the villagers and the adventurers are capable of doing in retrieving one of the orbs of Roria, which brings our total that Dragog is holding on to now to 3 of 6. The Archon is interested in assembling a team in order to try to go open a vault. Now, if you're unfamiliar with sort of the Keyforge lore in universe, the fictional conceit that accompanies any Keyforge game is that there are 2 Archons who have assembled a team, and that's represented by the deck and these 3 factions who are competing with another Archon to collect enough amber to forge 3 keys and then open a vault and obtain whatever mysteries lie within. So in order to just kind of kick us into like a sense of urgency, we'll say, a vault has appeared. Viceroy Orionut is putting together a team of including these villagers and the different factions that have assembled around here. And we need to move quickly in order to collect amber, in order to forge keys. I don't know. Presumably there's some other Archon that's working against us. I don't have another deck to open to decide who might that be. I guess I do have some. Maybe we'll see. Zavina and Thorada come back to Viceroy Orionut and says, okay, we can, get all of our villagers. We can work on getting this amber to open this vault. But in exchange, if we're successful, can you help us find a way off the Crucible? The Viceroy says, it will be difficult, but if you are able to open this vault for me, we will see what we can do. But there we are. So here's what I'm thinking moving forward. There's 3 factions. Each of them might have to do with 1 cache of amber. And because we're going to have to move quickly, we're going to have to take all of our characters and split them into 3 different parties and go on 3 separate adventures. So for the demons, I'm imagining this, gateway that has opened down into the underworld, into the, the lower levels of the Crucible, and these demons have been coming out of. I imagine that there's a cache of amber down in the demon tunnels that a team is going to go have to retrieve or negotiate with the demon. We've had terrible luck negotiating and communicating with demons. We might just have to, run in and grab some ember and get out. We've got the elves over here who are good at, stealing. So maybe there'll be some sort of heist situation where they know about a cache of amber and can go retrieve that. And then with the Martians, we haven't seen a lot of the Martian cards, but this deck came with a rebel token. And in the lore of the Keyforge universe, within the Martian faction, there are the elders who kind of control everything. And then there are the soldiers who are the little ones who do all the fighting. And in the story, soldiers are starting to rebel against the elders. So because we've got this rebel token, I'm imagining that there might be a rebellious faction within these Martians over here that are doing these experiments that we might be able to exploit to overthrow the elders running this lab and get access to the cache of amber that presumably they have to power all of the equipment. All of that being said, we need to split up these teams. I feel like Kristen is still like enmeshed himself into the village, and Kevda is still like in the village. I think they are gonna stay. And, they might still help out in some ways, and then for the Martians, Zamzes is a peacemaker negotiator. He might be able to, ingratiate themselves into some sort of rebel faction. And then Suvara has been working and leading this militia, right, to capture these mutated creatures. So she might be able to help, and John, she's going to go with Suvara. For the demons, we definitely want Tharada on the demon team. And I think we want Fabum on the demon team as well. Then for the heist, Macthan maybe to run a ship, Zavina to pilot the ship. Where do I want Dragog on these? I don't know. I feel like Dragog could kind of go either way. We've got Havrina, the adventurous innkeeper, but I don't know what other skills she has. Let me see. I have acquired the hardback of Between the Skies, which is quite lovely and has definitely replaced my 3 little zines. And there's a table in here for skills. All right, so I'm just going to roll here. We'll go blue-green, get a skill. Gambling. Well, that makes sense. She's an innkeeper. Maybe she ran like a game table at the back of the inn. So if that's the case, I think maybe she might be helpful in this elf heist. So she'll go with them. So we'll put Dragog with Fabian and Tharada. Fleecy wants to go on something. Fleecy will go on the elf heist. And I think the Wolverine will go into the demon tunnels. Previously, I was using the Troika system, to manage the character sheets. And that was fine and great and worked really well. But I'm thinking, we've got so many characters, rather than have that detailed level of character sheets, I'm thinking about moving into a simpler resolution system. And in my personal games, when I play Between the Skies does not have a system. It just has a series of different dice rolls that are suggested to, he's like, well, you might do this, and here's what the different dice can do. And there's a very simple system that's suggested where you roll 2 6-sided die. If it's a 9 or higher, it's a success. In certain situations, like if do a 7 or higher is a success if, they have a skill related to the thing. Or sometimes 7 and 8 is a partial success, and then 6 and below is a failure. It works really well, actually. So I think kind of for this abstracted story that we've been kind of pulling out, we might run that for a little bit. At some point, probably we'll condense down. We might convert back into a Troika system or some other resolution system. But just for now, keep it simple because we've got so much going on. So who do we want to run first? I want to do this Martian scenario. Orionut has maybe given them the time and location of like where some of the rebellious Martians are going to be meeting. They're going to go and try to ingratiate themselves to these rebels and try to work on a plan to overthrow the elders and gain access to this amber cache. Kristen is going to make them some sort of cheese dish, some sort of cheese offering. We don't know if the Martians eat cheese. And then Zamzes and Suvar and Jonsi will go and meet with those rebels. Okay, so that's our expected scene, but as always, we roll on our die of fate to see if something else happens. Okay, 8. Okay, expected scene. Zamzis, Suvara, and Janshi, with their cheese meal in hand, head out over the cheese plains to the secret distant area where a group of rebel Martians are meeting. I haven't looked through this deck yet, but I think it's time to kind of like start filtering through and see what kind of characters might be appearing. So we're going to go through and pull out some Martians and see what kind of rebels are going on. So what this is telling me is there are not a lot of rebels in this deck. There's like one here, and then we've got the token. And then we have this Maverick Shadows creature who's there. So maybe this character, this Finch Cloak, has kind of been helping out, kind of come over from this elves that are over here. There are not a lot. Their crew is pretty small, which is something we did not know. Oh, well, we got a Batminder too. Okay, great. So if we kind of split up our forces by rebels and not, we see there are a few rebels, but the other side has a lot of ships. But I don't see any elders, which is also really interesting. There's maybe like not a lot of like direct oversight here, so that might be able to play into our advantage. Okay, so there's this tiny team meeting. There's a captain, and then there's maybe like one other soldier, and then there's this Vatminder, and then there's this elf. And it's night, you know. Imagine like a campfire, but it's not a fire. It's like a little device that maybe just like heats and like projects like this weird like Martian orb for like heat and light. They approach, and Yixel, okay, this captain, goes, "Who goes there? Who goes there?" And they're like, all draw their weapons. And Zamzis comes forward and says, "Please, we come with an offering of peace and an offering of cheese." So the question is, we didn't know, and I don't know, do the Martians even eat cheese? Do they care? 50-50? I have no idea. 95. No. That's a critical no. So actually, because they're in these cheese plains, and Yixel, the captain, goes, "You offer us the very dirt which this fields are made of, and you expect us to treat this as some sort of honorable gift. No, this is disgusting. You're offering us cooked dirt." I wonder if the elf here maybe intercedes. 50-50. 36. And Finchcloak here says, "Oh, I'll take the cheese. Sure, thanks. Yeah. Oh, this is great. Oh, I mean, come on, Yixel. I mean, they like cooked it up. They like added spices and stuff. This is good stuff." And Yixel's like, not a great introduction. They're not on a great footing here. So Zamzis kind of makes their case. "We have been working with the local Archon, Viceroy Orionut, who believes that there's a cache of amber in the Martian lab. We can help you overthrow your masters. You could have some of the amber, and we could have some of it." And Yixel, "What do you have to offer?" And Suvara steps in and says, "Well, we've been able to capture some of the mutated creatures, the creatures that you and your team at this lab have been mutating with the demonic fungus. We have a Chuff Ape and we have a Zorg, and we believe we could get them to do what we want." And Yixel kind of considers this. You know, we kind of had an easy start. I don't think we have any strong particular advantage. So I'm going to make this, you know, like a negotiation roll for Zamzis. 9 or higher, success. We'll say 7 and up is like a success with like some sort of complication, and 6, they're not interested. So let's see. Okay, 2. Ooh, that's real bad. So there's no, yeah, they are totally not interested. "This is too risky. This complicates our mission and is not pure to our cause. We cannot work with you. We cannot help you. We will overthrow those elders on our own, and we will seize the amber for ourselves." That did not go as planned. What if they go to the other side? You know, the point was to get access to this amber. Could they go and like maybe make a deal with the establishment side and say, hey, you know, we know about these rebels. We could help you kind of stamp them out. We have these creatures we could return. Could we get access to that amber? I mean, they don't really have a stake in this conflict. They're just trying to get the amber, trying to play whatever side. And the rebel side, that negotiation did not go great. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to go and take these creatures, the Chuff Ape and the Zorg, and they're going to go, you know, take them by whatever leashes they have, whatever control, and go take them and try to return them to the other side and see how that goes. All right, that's our expected scene. Now we roll the die of fate. Expected scene. So they go, and there are, you know, these saucers flying overhead, and, you know, maybe there's this creature that they've mutated, who's, you know, it's kind of like a cobra, you know, millipede legs, it's a fang house, you know, that's kind of like patrolling. And they go, you know, and Zamzes go out and says, you know, hey, we are returning these creatures to you. Please, may we come in and we can negotiate and talk business. Yeah, we'll see how that negotiation goes. Same thing, 9+, 7+ for complication. All right. Okay, 8. All right, so they agree, but there's some sort of complication. So there's this other card, this scoop up. So maybe with these saucers that are overhead, maybe they just go ahead and, like, you know, they abduct, they scoop up Suvar and Zamzes and Janshi into one of these saucers. You know, they take the creatures, so they're agreeing to the negotiations, but, like, these Martians have the upper hand. They've, like, captured our adventurers. They're in the saucer, and so maybe they're in there, maybe we're up in one of these saucers, and they're talking to maybe this mind warper. It's got some sort of mind control going on. And the mind warper says, you have returned these creatures of ours. The Martians can do business when our interests align. Tell us what you know and what you need. Zamzes, again, says, we have returned your creatures as a sign of good faith. We know about the rebellious faction within your lab. We can help you find them and root them out, but we must get the amber supply. And the mind warper says, I see. Or I could just take control of your minds right now and do with you as I wish. This is not going great. You know, even though there was a partial success, this feels like more complicated. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to get out of this. Zamzes has put together the negotiation. He says, you know, hey, we'll help you root out these rebels in exchange for, you know, some of that cache of amber. Let's see how that goes. Nope. The mind warper says, no, I will just take over your minds and use you to root out the rebels. And then we will get to keep the amber. Ah! It's probably foolish of me to try to negotiate with the Martians on that level. I feel like a little sheepish right now. This was a bad idea. But anyway, so this is going totally poorly. Zamzes, Suvara, and Janshi have been mind controlled by this Martian, who is going to now use them to root out the rebels. Anyway, okay, well, that's going very poorly. We'll go cut over to one of the other teams. Let's do the heist. So here's what we got over here. We've got this Tuggenberger, which I believe we decided his name is Vivo. We've got this Nexus, you know, kind of a hacker. We've got this Displant. So this elf might actually be over helping with the demon. And we've got Selwyn the Fence. So not a big team in terms of characters. Come up with what this heist might be. Let's roll on one of the other factions. We've got this faction table. All right, let's see what faction. We might get 7. Sanctum. So Sanctum is the house of knights and angels and spirits. They all wear armor. They're very shiny. They have castles that live in the sky. They're very protected and self-righteous. They seem like the perfect foils for our elves who are trying to steal from them. Oh, and right, and these are kind of more religious elves. They have this bracelet, right, that the Archon made for them. And so maybe there's some sort of other religious artifact that they want to steal. Oh, and as we said, right, the castles are up in the sky, so they're going to need the ship. They're going to need Macthan's ship to get up. Okay, what is it? I'm going to draw some cards from the Lore Master deck, see if we can... Okay, a shield. That makes sense to me. Let's get a modifier. A glistening shield. Sure, that sounds like a perfect Sanctum kind of thing. It's just going to be kind of the general thing of, they have to fly over, they have to, hoist themselves down and see if they can steal this thing. So, that's the expected scene. That's the plan. Let's see what happens. Okay, 5 and minus. Alter that scene with a decrease of activity. So the only activity that I could think might have been going on that we were expecting to go on, right? There might be, like guards or patrols. For whatever reason, there's sort of like fewer guards, fewer patrols than they were expecting, which I think is an immediate red flag to the elves, who start to suspect that this is some kind of trap, right? They heard about this thing. They knew where they were going to go steal it. They go, there's fewer guards. This is just all seems like too good to be true. But they're here to do this thing. So maybe instead, if the Sanctum Knights were expecting the elves, I don't know if they were necessarily expecting our other adventurers. So maybe the elves could stow away on the ship. Instead of kind of going this sneaky way, the elves will stow aboard on the ship, and the others will sort of pretend to be, pilgrims or perhaps interested in joining the Sanctum Society and kind of see what's going on and get a little bit more scope instead of doing this drop-down heist kind of situation. The elves are going to hide on the ship, on the Zeppelin, and then Macklin, Zavina, Havrina, and Fleecy are going to approach in a different way, pretending to be penitents. There's sort of two parts to this. Is their deception believed, and then are the elves able to hide themselves? I don't see any reason why the Sanctum might not believe that people, they get pilgrims all the time, and there's no reason for them to suspect these people. So I guess I'm only going to roll for the elves to see if they are able to hide. Okay, no, absolutely, we're rolling so bad today. No, okay, so they are totally expected. They saw the ship. The whole thing was, yes, a trap. The elves are all captured, and these guys are all captured. So what are we going to do? Let's look at our other cards. Well, I see we have this card. We have Perplexing Sophistry, which makes me think that maybe whatever trial or whatever court is going on, and they try to make their cases like, hey, you arrested us on suspicion of stealing. We haven't actually stolen anything yet. So they're going to try to kind of talk their way out of this through the court system. All right, that's our expected scene. Let's see how that goes. 3+, positive on a thread. So which thread is it going to be? 4, Suvara's quest for badges. So that's an interrupt scene. So instead of this scene, we do a scene that has to do with Suvara's quest for badges. Suvara is currently mind-controlled in a Martian saucer. So I'm wondering if maybe at some point she got a badge from a deity who is going to kind of help her break this mind control or make her immune to the mind control. So let's roll up a deity and let's use Between the Skies to do that. In Between the Skies, there's sort of, there's two different kinds of gods. There's gods and petty gods. So we'll see which one. 1, 2, 3 for a god. 3, okay, for a god. Okay. What kind of god it is? 32. A god of pleasure. 25. Unpredictable. 16. Inanimate. And 64. A sibling. I'm going to roll the name for this deity on this deity names chart. Ooh. 39. Jubi. 76. Jubirir. Jubirir. A god of pleasure, unpredictable, inanimate, and a sibling. Inanimate tells me that they take a form of like an object. So let's roll. I'm going to get an anchor card. Yeah, we'll say they look like a flower. Zavara has this sash with all these deity merit badges, and she's got the one for Jubrir, who's the flower god of pleasure. Due to Jubrir's unpredictable nature, they decide that they see one of their followers, one of their adherents, someone that has done a favor for them in the past, mind controlled, even within the Crucible. And they say, I'm going to dispel this mind control. Now, they may require an additional favor in return, but we'll deal with that when that comes up. So, Suvara, in the saucer, suddenly awakes from her mind control. She is going to see if she can overpower the Mind Warper and take control of the ship. Okay, so that's going to be our skill roll. Okay, 5. No. She, goes, sneaks up behind the Mind Warper, wrestles with him. The Mind Warper is trying to re-control Suvara. Can't, right, because she's now immune. She's not able to overpower the Mind Warper and take control of the ship, but she is still immune. Is she able to somehow transmit this immunity to Zamzes and Janshi? She taps the badge for Jubrier and says, hey, I know you helped me out, but I need a little bit more. I need a little bit more help here. 7. Okay, yes, but Jubrier is going to need another favor, definitely, and it's going to be kind of a big ask. So we will see. So Suvara is able to transmit her immunity to Zamzes and Janshi, and the 3 of them, I think, there's sort of no question that the 3 of them would be able to overpower this little Martian. They take control of this saucer. I'm going to have to add a thread. Suvara's debt to Jubrier. So they tie up the Mind Warper. They take control of the saucer. And that's where we are at with that. So we can either go back to the elves, or we can continue this thread. We're going to follow the team on the saucer. Expected scene is they're just going to go back to the base, just go in blazing, just try to crash in, get the amber, and get out with this advantage that they have while they have it. Okay. That is the expected scene. Great. All right. Does that work? I don't know. Let's just see. Just a roll for the blast past the other saucers. Okay, 10. Yes. Okay, so Suvara and Zaz, they have no particular skill at piloting or anything, so they're kind of swerving with this saucer. They come in, they blast through the other saucers. They come in. They're able to get past the original defenses. They knew a little bit about the lab. All right, so they're just going to try to blast open the lab and get the amber. So roll for that. Okay, 8. Okay, so success with a complication. So they go down to the lab. They, blast it open. What's the complication? Let's go through the other. Okay, there's this ammonia clouds. They've triggered this, this gas that emerges out. So they, seal their saucer, fly in, and so they're going to have to scoop the amber, grab the amber without getting out of the ship because of the noxious ammonia. Are they able to do that? This just seems so... I don't know. What are we doing? What are we doing? 7. Yes, they can, but, they don't get all that they wanted. They're trying to struggle with these claws, with these tentacles, and so they get some of the amber, but, some is kind of dropping out as they fly back out. There's amber sort of scattering. So they get some, but not all. So it's going to have to be up to, one of the other 2 missions to see if they can get bonus amber. We will stop it there. So we've got one partially successful mission to get some amber. Elf heroes are tied up in the courts. We'll see how that goes. We'll follow that up next time. And then we haven't even touched the demon tunnel. Thanks so much. I'm really enjoying this kind of more freeform style of play. If you're enjoying this, please like, subscribe, and share. That's the best thing that you can do to help support this channel. This is Sphere Hoppers. Keep hopping.